everyone who showed up. We really appreciate you coming. We're going to learn about 60 years of Friends of the Library. So if I want to get started with, well, I'm going to introduce you first to Jim Luke, our mayor, Mayor Jim Luke, Linda Tafaro, and I don't think Josephine's made it, I don't see her. So glad you're all here, volunteers, and hopefully you are all friends of the library, because this is what it's all about, is your friendship. So we're going to start with the first slide and a short memorial.
Let me just take one second. Thank you for your patience.
One more thing. There it is. Okay. Your membership in Friends of the Library has provided great support. It's gone. For books and improvements for the library. Okay. There's no way to measure a friend of the library. And the next slide will just show you one of, this is Diane Boone. We're remembering Diane. And her husband. She was a great treasure to us at the library in so many ways. This is a slide from our 50th. Thank you for your support. And we remember Kathy Holland and Randy, who were irreplaceable. WRJW, we always meet the second Tuesday of the month. The senior fair, we're always there. Miss Reed, thanks for being there with me. And one of our friends made this. It's a folded Reader's Digest that says Friends of the Library.
Too fast?
Yeah, we have a quilt that's going to be made. And these are some of the awards that we've received over the years. And it's because of our friends that the chairs you're sitting on, you provided. Membership purchases chair and a new carpet. We refurbished the kitchen. And we built a book room. And it's going to be called Diane's room, and she will haunt us forever for saying that. Foyer. And this is the old 50-year-old desk. And that was refurbished to a brand new beautiful desk. These are some of the volunteers setting up for the book sale. The book sale is one of our, we give the library $50,000 a year. So you contribute to that, and we appreciate that. This is Diane again, and the boxes of books. And the chore of setting them up. Our cookbook we have for sale for $5, anybody still needs one. And
we'll give you a discount on a case.
And these are money makers. You can see a little boy behind there holding the dinosaur basket. We had a murder mystery dinner, which was fun. A lot of fun. We've had a tour of Spain with John Hilton. His chocolate came, talked about the Underground Railroad. We had several quilting programs. This was an Underground Railroad quilt. This is in Mississippi. This is part of the quilting program. We've had All in Friends. Music is our favorite Friends program. Y'all are more likely to attend. Shallow Creek came and performed. And bluegrass music. This is still our bluegrass music. And String of Pearls, because it's gold, isn't it? They took the name from the college, String of Pearls. And this is Courtney Stovall on the piano, our friend, doing musicals. And we had an etiquette class for the children. There's Miss Kathy and friends getting ready for setting up for the etiquette class. Kathy Eunice, one of our previous board members, for helping to decorate cakes. This is a book that Kathy's made on the side of the book. And give Brittany get her paper. This is a hurricane cake that she made. And the whole bed is by Kathy. And then we have the Mississippi Humanities Primetime Family Group. They were here for like 4 weeks, meeting with the children and doing different programs with them. Safety with the fire department. And the Hattiesburg Zoo came. And the kids loved it. And we had a welcome center, Missy, from the welcome center came and did a presentation on Mississippi. And our display cases, we had several silent auctions that we don't make very much money of it, but somebody said we trade junk to each other. For a small price, one of our members made those. We had support from Mississippi Products. We had goods from the earth. This is the blueberry guy. We had the beekeepers and different ones to come and talk about what's grown in Mississippi. Support of local rural educational system, the school support. Rural County Community College. What they offer, community blood drive. We've done all of these things, and it's thanks to you that we're successful. We have sponsored political forums. We just had one, and it was very civil. We asked for support for the library in Jackson. And there's a picture of this I think it's 1987, the board, the French board. And more than half of our members are no longer with us from this picture. And this is a new group. I haven't taken a picture in a while. Refreshments, we always have refreshments, and we're grateful for those the board brings and everybody brings. And we welcome Lamont with a big old head. This is our first little library that we put up at Nicholson Elementary School. And this is one of the last ones, and we have a new one coming. It's going to be orange green with a red top. And our very own staff person made this. And we now have book dash. We don't need this kind of setup. So that is friends of the library that you have participated to make it successful, and we thank you for doing that. So I'd like to introduce, we will remember Diane, grateful, and we're going to name that room Diane's room, and I remember we will always be with us. And now we have Cheryl, who's taken over the practice of stacking and storing the books, and we appreciate her for doing that. So thank you so much. And I would let Lamont, if you would, introduce former librarians and Jim.
All right. Yeah, thank you. You know, I'm Lamont Pearson. I'm the new director. I just hit my first year anniversary. It seems like a decade. In some ways, it seems like about 2 weeks. So a little this and a little that. Linda, where are you at? I'd like to introduce Linda Tufaro. She was a director when I was a clerk here years ago. And she's the one that helped inspire me to go into library science. And she's also Picayune Citizen of the Year. What year was that?
I think it was 2011.
2011 till today, Citizen of the Year. And Miss Josephine McGee couldn't be here today. And then Carol Ferris is also, she's on a family trip. I've got some words from her to mention after we speak with our mayor, Mr. Jim Luke. Jim Luke is a huge supporter of the library. He does a lot of research in our library, our local history room, our genealogy room. So it's nice to see a political figure specifically who actually does engage and knows what a library is offered. That's not always the case. And you know, you'll see, if you've seen his books, you'll see some of the fruition of his work within the library. So without further ado, Mr. Jim Luke.
gonna begin, you know, I've spoken in front of all the superintendents of Mississippi and Jackson. I spoke in front of all law enforcement association in Tennessee. And I'm more nervous today. I'm gonna tell you why. When I saw Miss Linda up there showing that slideshow, what y'all didn't know is right before that slideshow started, he said, yeah, we got pictures of the football team from 1969 helping after Camille, moving chairs and things and all that. I said, football team from 1969, well, keep those pictures put up, because I don't need Linda saying, here's Jim when he weighed 150 pounds. And we're not gonna say what he weighs today. But I have been hitting the track a lot lately. So anyway, what an honor as the mayor to be here in support of the library. This is exciting. 60 years in this location. What a milestone. History. And it's more history to many of us in the room from this perspective. I started coming to the library. I went to high school right behind here. And Linda could tell you, she knew me back when. And I would come to the library and I loved reading. Now, I'm kind of a different kind of reading. I read every Hardy Boy book there was. Any murder mystery, anything like that. But just Mississippi history, Picayune history. I've been interested for a long, long time in history, you know, and so, and I feel like I've lived a little bit of the history here, you know, been around a while, you know, but I'm very, again, honored to be here. I thank y'all for asking me on this, this occasion, the 60th anniversary, to come share a few words about what we're doing in Picayune. And before I leave, I might even mention a few books here, because I can tell you, my career started probably in this library. It's so long ago I can't remember. But anyway, I was a frequent flyer to the library, you know, back in those days and since. And every, you might say that's where it all started. Other than about, I don't know, Mary Beth, you might know, 8, 9 years ago, whatever. I came home one day and I looked at my wife Karen and I said, I think I'm going to write a book. And she looked and said, what do you know about writing a book? And I said, nothing, but I'll learn. And I started talking to people like Mary Beth. I started talking to different ones that have written books. And there was a guy named, and I don't know if anybody in the room knows him, he's from Roseland Park. His name was Doug McQueen. And Doug was really, he was a writer, and he never wrote books, but he was and I asked him I read some of the things that he wrote, the stories and things, and so I said, well, read it and see what you think. He said, this is really good. So I sent him the magazines like Reminisce or the Good Old Days, different magazines. And I started printing my stories in those, you know, and he said, well, you ought to really think about writing a book. And I said, well, what would I write about? He said, write about something you know. I said, well, what I know in growing up is Goodyear Boulevard. And there's this name of this book is The Good Years on Goodyear Boulevard. So I talk about my history there of riding the boulevard and hanging out on the boulevard. And then, of course, from my law enforcement days, which was many years, murder under Bowie Creek Bridge was born. Another story that I wrote back in that time is they were asking for stories for Chicken Soup for the Soul, and I believe Mary Beth has many stories in it. I have one, and I'm proud of that one. And it's The Joy of Christmas, and there were 6,000 entries, and it shows 101. And mine, On the Wings of Faith, was the story that I wrote in that book, and it was selected. So, and then, you know, I started writing books, got more into coming to the library, the staff here at the library. Wonderful. I wrote volume 1, A History of Picayune. Well, had so much material, I went to volume 2. So, a lot of writing and everything, and it's been an enjoyable experience. I don't do it for the money, I just do it because I enjoy doing it. You know, it's kind of what I do when I'm not being the mayor. But a lot of my career, it was born here. I went on to work at Stennis Space Center, like many did, you know, and I was over security for a government contractor there. I worked for the state for a number of years in law enforcement. I also, of course, as many of you know, served as a police chief for about 8 years, served as a city manager for 10 and a half, and now the mayor for 2 years. And so it's been a great journey. I'm a blessed man, and I'm just really proud to be here. One story that we want to talk about, and then I'm going to do the updates of what's going on in the city, but just to kind of get you in the mood. I'm writing on a book now that, you know, the gateway to Picayone's prosperity. Every mayor that served, there was prosperity. There were things that happened. They did things to move the city forward. And that's our slogan. That's the slogan I picked, moving Picayune forward. Now, where did this gate come from? There used to be a mansion on North Main Street named the E.F. Tate Mansion. Long time ago. It was built in 1908, and I believe it burned down in 1968. It's no longer there. But when you drive down North Main Street, you see the beautiful live oaks that line the street. They planted them. And there was a nice lake or pond out in front of it. And that was the house, probably might be one of the few houses in Picayune in 1908. But it was at the beginning. And E.F. Tate was the first mayor of Picayune when it was declared a city. Now, there were other mayors when it was a township or, village, but E.F. Tate, who owned that mansion, who bought the Bank of Picayune, who bought the Picayune item, and he basically is known as the father of Picayune. This gate was on the front of that mansion. There's no telling who walked through this gate over the years. Because remember, he was the mayor, they attended First Baptist Church, he had baptisms in the pond out front, a lot of history, a lot of Picayune history there. Well, I'm kind of like a history detective, I guess because of my law enforcement background, and when I write a book, I really do a lot of research, typically about 2 years worth before I ever start writing. And I found out, okay, well, who's from the descendants that I can talk to? There's not many still around from 1908, that period of time. But I did find a lady, and somebody in the room may know her. Her name was Cameron Napier, and she was married to John Napier, who was a descendant of E.F. Tate. And I found out she was up around Montgomery, Alabama. I said, well, let me check into this. And I got a phone number for her. I called her up, and she said, hello. I said, this is Jim Luke, Mayor of Picayune. And I said, can you tell me anything about the Tate Mansion? She said, come on up. So I spent, and you'll see it in my new book coming out called The Gateway to Picayune's Prosperity. I spent hours with her. And before I left, she said, would you like to have the gate that was on the front of the E.F. Tate Mansion? I said, yeah. Where is it? And she said, well, it's laying out in the woods there somewhere close to the house. You'll have to find it. And so I did. And I went and I looked and looked and looked and I found it. And she had a lot of the pictures that you saw in the beginning of the movie. She has many more that will be in the book. And so I bought it back, had it sandblasted, had it painted. Glenn Smith out on Palestine Road put it in this state for me. And now I use it when I'm talking about the Tate Mansion and so forth. A lot of history with this gate. So when we came up with the name, I worked very closely on all my books. As a matter of fact, some of you, or probably most of you, know, all the covers of my book are done by Bill and Sally and Edwards. And Bill and Sally, I tell them, just like I told the gentleman what I wanted to see in the film, you know, what my vision of the film was, I would tell them what my vision was for each of the books. And we'd go back and forth, just like we did with the film, till we got it like we wanted it, you know. But I can't thank Bill and Sally Edwards enough. He's a videographer. If you want to look at on YouTube, you can probably find a trailer for the Goodyear book or Murder Under the Bully Creek Bridge. Bill does the videos, and Sally is the graphic designer. So do a great job. I could talk more about it, but you're gonna have to get the book, you know. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the history. Usually when I talk to an organization or somebody invites me to talk a little bit about an organization, I like to know a little bit about the history of it. Again, when Margaret Reed Crosby Memorial Library, when that name came up, I said, well, let me learn a little bit about Margaret Crosby. Margaret Reed Crosby, whose name graces Picayune's Youth Cultural Center, had a passion for young people, house guests, Presbyterian Church, Ole Miss, and the Ole Miss football team, education and culture, and friendship for a vast number of people. Ms. Crosby was born at Wesson in Copiah County, June 22nd, 1879. Her family moved to the Big Creek area near Lincoln County, where Margaret grew up on a farm adjacent to Crosby Farm. She married L.O. Crosby on October 6, 1896, and they moved to Picayune in 1917. So, what do we owe to Crosby? Well, you only have to look to the left of the school, look to the stadium over here where we're sitting. I mean, the Crosby family, just for this, I think donated like $250,000 just for the library, you know. And so, one thing they mentioned, the mantle and the portraits and some of the rare antiques graced the memorial room right across the way of the library, commemorating the remarkable couple, and particularly Mrs. Crosby, whose residence here meant so much to Picayune. And this is important to say. The Margaret Reed Crosby Memorial Library is another lengthening shadowing of Picayune Women's Club. Picayune Women's Club has done a lot for Picayune. I've witnessed a lot in my time, and we can't pay enough tribute. They were responsible for the establishment of the public library here in Picayune. I'm not talking 60 years ago, I'm talking 96 years ago. And I'm going to try to walk you through just for a second. The first library service to the citizens began 96 years ago in a side room of a building at Rester and West Canal Street. And that's where they built the First National Branch Bank over here on Canal Street. The next one was a building on East Canal by Dr. Bloor in 1939. And then in 1939, the historic City Hall that you see on the boulevard, that's where the library was for many, many years. Had a sign right there on the front door when you walk up the steps, library. And later became where I attended early in my career, city council meetings. And then, of course, the fourth home was here in 1963, and again, and correct me if I'm wrong, and if I do get it wrong, just say, what a shame. What are you talking about? But the Friends of the Library started at the same time, I believe, as the library here, 1963. Now, if I got that wrong, somebody speak up.
No, it was the same year.
You okay? The Friends of the Library started in about 1963, right here with the library. was dedicated and everything, and, I can't, I talked a little bit about my experience at the library, multiply that by how many people that have attended this library since it was dedicated in 1963. And here we are 60 years later in this very same spot, and it has served our community well. It really has. And so I'm just excited to kind of learn a little more information. I'll take questions, and if anybody wants to look at the book or wants to purchase one, they can. You don't have to. One thing that makes me very proud to be the mayor, there are some things going on here that I just need to talk about just for a moment. And I'm going to move pretty quickly through this. And some of you have seen this before. We adopted the interchanges, 4 and 6 interchange. Here was the interchange before we adopted it. They cut the grass once or twice a year in the highway department. The top of the hill is on the other side of these trees, but you're never going to see it. This is what it looks like now, since we adopted it. And so you can see a remarkable difference. We adopted the exits, we maintained the exits, we cut the grass every 2 weeks. Because this is the first impression. If you're coming north from Louisiana, you come across the line, this is not it's not only the first impression of Picayune, but it's the first impression of Mississippi. And we want that to be something that, what would make you want to get off at the entrances here? And so we're dressing those entrances up. And one thing I want to say, and again, I hope that you can see this, within the next 30 days, this sign, beautiful sign, and it looks small here. It's 8 foot tall and about 40 feet across. And it says, hey, this is what's going to make you stop and want to check Picayune out, But I'll move it around just a little bit, where you can see. But there's going to be a sign with 3 flagpoles. All of this has been working for, I'll take questions in the end, if you wouldn't mind, sir. But we got to let people know we're here, where we exist. This is a place to stop, visit, get something to eat, and, retire here, visit here. And so there'll be a sign in the next 30 days on the north exit. And about 30 to 45 days after that, there'll be one on the south exit saying, hey, we're here. And we thinned the timber a little bit, and we're going to landscape those exits, make them look very, very welcoming to the people that are coming up the highway. Another thing we've done is, of course, you all know about Crosby Commons right across the street there. That's turned out to be a real attractive. I've got people from Diamond Head walking the track in the morning. I walk the track myself, trying to get back to that football wage. Back in 1969, I don't think I'm gonna make it. But anyway, we bought the property. We had a vision to buy the property right across the street, and this is what our plans are for that property. That will hold 100 people. And there'll be bathrooms and change rooms to match that. It's got a real historic type of taste to it, and that will be down on the far end on Magnolia Street. And those 2 oaks are on either side that I had an arborist look at. They said they're around 250 years old. Think about what those oaks have seen. Because the first football game was played out on that field. A lot of people don't know that. Think of people sitting around those trees, watching the football game and that sort of thing. So a lot of history there. Another thing that I've talked about in the past is dog parks. Now, up on right next door to Creekside and the playground up there, kept hearing people that were going to Bay St. Louis, going to Slidell, going to Hattiesburg, the dog parks. Well, we own the property. drove down to Home Depot, walked in there, saw the manager, I said, hey, we got the property to put a dog park, will you pay for the fence? He said, well, how much is the fence? I said, about $8,000. He said, I'll check with the higher ups, and they did. So it did cost the taxpayers a bunch of money, but the fence and a property is what usually is the most for a dog park. That's for large dogs. And so somebody said, what about the small dogs, you know? And I said, you know, okay, well, we had a park that wasn't used anymore down at the end of the boulevard here on the right. And so if you drive past that today, you'll see fence posts going out there to put the fence up around the new small dog park. So we think that's gonna be something, and everything we do, we really do keep the taxpayer in mind. Just like the signs I was telling you about earlier that's gonna go on the interstate, we got $30,000 donated for those signs. What's that gonna do for business here? You know, if people get up and shop at Paul's Pastry or different businesses or eat at Creekside, trying to pull them off the interstate, you know, for that. $30,000 donated, I don't know how many thousands of dollars were donated for this park. Friendship Park, once again, some of you have seen this before. Friendship Park, we applied for a BP grant and got $660,000. And we got that through the effort of Senator Angela Hill, Representative Stacy Wilkes, and Jansen Owens and Timmy Ladner from Hancock County. It took a team. And myself and the council are working as a team with our staff, with our employees. You know, the ones that are in the arena, don't thank me ever. I'm just the big guy at top of the heap. But the vision is to move Picayune forward. But we want to keep this hometown. If you notice everything that we do, especially downtown, trying to keep that hometown culture and look and feel and that sort of thing, you know. I mean, we don't want to be Huntsville, Alabama. We're not trying to be. We don't. I'm not even saying we're trying to be Slidell. But I think if you're not moving forward, you're kind of like you're dying, you know. Some of you might remember what West Canal looked like just 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, there were many empty stores on West Canal. I don't have the figures with me, I didn't bring them today, but we've had like 150 new businesses in the last 2 years. So, and we've had 400 and something new jobs. So we are moving the city forward and we're doing it as a team. And you are part of that team because you're allowing us to, in our leadership, to move the city forward, and we thank you for that and you supported that. And one of the most important things that I think that we've done for over 20 years, we've lobbied for a new police department. It was too small when it was built. You know how I know that? Because I was the first one to open the door to the police department over here 20 years ago. And they built what they could afford, and I understand that. And you have to understand that when you're in these positions. But immediately, within 6 months, we were already having to add on and build offices within because it was too small already. For 20 years, we've lobbied to try to build a new police department. Our administration is building this police department. And a lot of people say, well, why did you move it up there on the north end of the city? I can tell you that's where we're experiencing a lot of growth for one thing. But what the agreement we had is we're going to keep on where the old one is. There's a new building out on the south end of it. We're going to keep a substation down here. So if you don't want to drive to the north end and you want us to take a report, come over here. We'll be there for you. But we're going to have a new police department because everything's changed over here. We don't house any prisoners over there anymore. They go to the county. We don't have dispatch anymore because it's over in the county building right across the street here. So the whole mission of what the police department was in 1978 when it was built it's changed. And so the mission up there is, like court over here, it would not be unusual to see, if you could picture this library, people getting this library all the way up and down the sidewalk. That's what court days look like over there, because the courtroom was just too small. You know, it didn't have any offices for the prosecutor or for the defense attorneys or anything. So we're building a police department, and let me tell you what that police department, and I believe this at the time, and I believe it more today. When we started lobbying Rouse's to come here, we had some meetings. I basically had to give a non-disclosure agreement because they didn't want anybody to know it, because they're afraid, I guess, somebody would buy it before they bought it. And we went and met, and we made it a Slidell. And we were kind of going back and forth, back and forth. I mean, they were looking to expand Rouse's all over Mississippi. When I told them we were putting a police department 40 feet out their back door, it was just a no-brainer for them. They said, we want to be next to a police department. Because that will be a good thing, you know. People will feel comfortable and they'll feel safe and this sort of thing. So a few months later, we signed an agreement with Rouse's, you know, to come here, and that's a good thing. Well, there are people on Highland Parkway. If you're going down Highland Parkway, you know, if you come in from the north end, it's got a roundabout there, and you can go into Berrywood, or you can go in the new police department, or you can go into Rouse's. I can tell you that I got a call last week that some property's been sold up there for a new business. I got other people looking to buy up there on that street for new business, economic development, and that's what the city needs. And I said, well, since all this is happening, Mr. Rouse, I said, you see that roundabout out there? You know, if you spend about $20,000 or $30,000 on it, put a big flagpole there and landscape the base of it, boy, that would just be a big hit to the people in Picayune. So they agreed to do that. Not twisting your arm or anything, but I was thinking by April or May, we'll be dedicating that new police department, and we received no opposition for it. We had public hearings, you know, there wasn't any opposition that I heard. There might have been some behind the scenes, but the police department's going to be a really great thing. And like I say, we're going to keep a presence on the south end, but just really feel like that we've got things moving in the right direction, and it makes me proud to be the mayor at this time. It's very humbling for me. This is a great city. I have a passion and love for this city, and many of you do too. And so we want to see it be the best that it can be, you know, and that's what we're trying to do. But the bottom line is, I think the leadership and all these projects that I've outlined here, the leadership, we've got a great council right now. I mean, this has been a good council, and they're a good team. And everything that I've discussed here, they deserve more credit than I do. They're just a great team to work with. And it takes a team of people like-minded like that. And so I would tell you that it's very high on my list for the future. There's another thing that's high on my list, is the library right here. Yes, it was born in '63. But it's time. We've been having discussions over the last few years about doing some things, or doing things like this. I've actually asked the people at City Hall. We got Sid Albritton, a former senator. He was a former lobbyist. We got him looking for money because I guess everybody in the room knows this. The city owns this building. They own this block, and it's time, ma'am.
I was just gonna say, we own all this land.
We own the whole land, the whole block here, and it's time that some tough decisions are made for the future. Of course, we have to find the grant or money or things like we have on all these other things, but we've got people looking for that. And yes, sir.
Since you mentioned the things about the library, about expanding on it, is any way possible a second story or build around the tree that's on that side over there, another expansion, and then put a doorway going to the expansion for the second story?
Well, I don't know that, we haven't got that far yet, we can't even get a plan to expand it, yet, so, I would think that you will be hearing something on the Picayune stage thing within the next year. I think you'll be hearing on this, these are long-range projects, but I think it's time. It was time for a new police department, it's time for a theater here. My mother was part of all of that. I don't think I ever saw her in a play, but she went to every one of them. She didn't miss a one when she was alive, and I think it's great for our city, and I think that's good. I think the library mission has changed over the last 60 years. Some things that I've been talking to you about, there's some great things that can happen. Just need the support of the city to do that. So I think those are some things that we really, and I'm tired of talking about it, it's time for action. Okay? It's time. I have an old saying that they kid me around City Hall, it's time to fish or cut bait. Now let's get this going. And we've done that with a lot of these projects that you've heard about today. And we're going to, this council and this administration is going to move the city forward. And of course, we have to be respectful of the taxpayers as we do that. You know, we have to respect. We can't spend money that we don't have. So you know, we're taking a look at all those things, and I think all of those things is a better picking. I really do. I think that that's what attracts people to want to come here. Those type of things, just like the dog park, or just like the playground, or just like over here at Crosby, it'll be called Crosby Oaks, right across the street here, right behind Crosby Commons. Those are things that I think attract folks that want to come here. Yes, ma'am.
Is that little park out on the end of East Canal, is that city owned? I know they're putting a splash park being pad in there out there, and they put some basketball and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's Leola Jordan Park.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes, ma'am, and there's gonna be a splash pad going there at the request of, Councilwoman Bumpers. There'll be a splash pad going out on Palestine and Neal Road. There'll be a splash pad on Rosa Street on J.P. Johnson. You know, those will probably be built in the next 60 days. So again, the things are not just all off in the distance. Things are happening.
In neighborhood, it is nice.
And so it'll be great neighborhood parks, you know. Okay, yes, ma'am.
The Aldi's project, I understand that kind of went down the tubes. Is there any possibility of it coming back?
Well, I haven't, so far, no one's told me it went down the tube. They keep saying they're coming,
Oh, great.
but there's nothing been approved or in writing or anything like that. But when we quit, because I get that question every week. I get that question every week, and we call them, and they say, we're still coming. So that's the best I can do with that one.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. Any other questions that you might have? Well, you're not as hard a group as I thought you were. I've enjoyed coming today. I've enjoyed talking about a little bit about the history of the library. I think this is a great day to celebrate, and I think that the city, there's a lot of things going on in the city that are moving our city forward. It was great to talk about those things, and I can tell you, it's been a blessed journey. As a police chief, as a city manager, and as your mayor, I'm honored, and I'm just humbled by this journey. Thank you.